Hello guys and welcome to another review video, and today we got the MOZA R16. So it's the updated version of the already existing R16 wheelbase that, you might have guessed it, it has 16 Newton meters. MOZA was kind enough to send me their new updated wheelbase. Wait a second, I gotta lift it, and you can see that it's actually quite heavy. Now we will do the unboxing and later we will test it out and see if it's actually worth getting it or not. It's the updated version, so let's see what's new. And voila, it's here. And here it is. And it's the manual. Of course, we got one of, if not the biggest power supply that I have seen in a while. So this is the power supply now. So this is actually the connector to the PC. We also got, well, it's nice that they always include a couple of bolts. And now I gotta remove this, well, this amazingly heavy wheelbase. Just let me lift it. I can already tell you that this is not easy. I love the design. I absolutely love the design. After the unboxing, I do have to say this is one of the heaviest things that I ever unboxed. I mean, this thing is an absolute monster. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like, it's huge. Well, it's not actually huge, but it's quite heavy. So let me quickly get the scale and we will actually weigh it out. And I would like to start with the settings of this wheelbase. And this is something that I spent some time working out and trying to find the perfect settings for this specific wheel and wheelbase. So what I did when I started out, I really didn't have had any information on how this is going to work out. So I loaded up this preset. It's called GT. It's just made for GT cars. It's default. And then I opened it up. This time I'm not going to do it. This time I will actually kind of guide you through my own settings and what I changed. So maximum steering angle should stay the same. So you have to match 540 to your wheel and in the game, and of course in the settings right here. This is default. You can of course change it to 720, 900. It really depends on what kind of car you're driving. Usually GT cars are about 540. So I just wanted to stick with that, and I had to then adjust it in ACC to match 540. So road sensitivity, yeah, I had it at about 10. It actually felt over exaggerated, so I just put it down to 9. I think you can get up to 8. It's still, I think the setting can vary quite a lot on how you, let's say, how you feel the tires and what's your personal preference about the tires. So road is, as I say, it's personal, so you can change it, or you can change it on the go and try a couple of settings if it works out. And this is the fun part right now. I tried the wheelbase at 100% and it was absolutely strong. I just couldn't make it into a couple of turns. I was really struggling to even keep the car on the track. It was really, really difficult. So then I had to put it down to 45% and it works well. I tried 50, I tried 40. It was kind of in the middle, so then I was just pressing in 45% right. And yeah, it seems to be the one that works out for me. Maximum wheel speed is 100. This is the one that I didn't change. Wheel spring strength 0. I don't like the spring effect. Wheel dampening, I like a little bit of dampening, but nothing too much. So I was just experimenting with about 20-30%. It was okay. In the end, I kind of managed to get up to 30, which was good enough for me. Let's go into the advanced settings a little bit. So here is the professional game force feedback intensity. This one is going to match up this game force feedback intensity, so do not change it that much. Maximum output torque limit, this is how much torque at the peaks you will have. So in my case, it's going to be all 16 Newton meters of torque. Inertia, this is what I kept the default. You got a couple of presets here. It really depends on what wheel are you using. I was using the KS wheel and now I'm using the GS wheel. Yeah, just use it as a preset, it's default, and it really works well. Natural inertia, I kept it at about 200. I don't really like to exaggerate it, this feedback that much. I was reading the description and it kind of matching up the feeling of a real race car wheel with 5 weight settings. So you don't want to feel like 5 times more than what it is in the actual car. I tried at 100, it kind of worked out, but 200 kind of feels, it's kind of a sweet spot for me, to be honest. Wheel friction, yeah, I don't like a lot of friction, but in the end, I decided to do with these, let's say these 20%. I tried 10, 15, it was kind of okay, but 20 kind of work out for me. Speed depending dampening at about 50%. So when you reach 70 kilometers per hour, this effect is going to kick in. This parameter is used to increase the dampening of the steering wheel according to the speed in the game, which is multiplied on the basis of mechanical dampening. When the mechanical dampening is 0, this parameter is disabled. So when you reach about 70, it's going to kick in like 50% of that self-dampening. Okay, this is the one where I felt like I had the most control of. You can change how the car feels in some certain areas. For example, when you're going 160 kilometers, you can feel those kind of curb effects, and I wanted to get a little bit more out of that, so it's 130% of what it usually is. You can customize it to your own personal preference, but I do suggest not over-exaggerating things. So it's like a gradual increase, nothing too much. So if you increase this one all the way to a 500%, I don't think it's that great, because you're gonna get such an over-exaggerated feel that's not natural and it's not really gonna be helpful. But of course, if you want to change it, it's completely up to you. And this is what I just keep it as it is. I don't like to have any kind of these parabolic, exponential, inverted S effects. It doesn't work out for me. I like linear. Linear is always, you know, the best solution, I guess. And please do not change this. I think this is the best approach. Just keep it linear, and everything will be fine. And the wheelbase should act as it's supposed to. Miscellaneous. This is something that it's quite funny, because you can change the softness of the limit. So whenever let's say the wheel reaches 540 degrees like we were talking about, it's going to have either this soft approach or the soft kind of transition, or you can crank it up all the way to hard, and then when you reach it, it's going to become very stiff. You can see it on the wheel, so it becomes really, really stiff. So all of those 16 newton meters are trying to stop you from going over that 540 degrees. Middle, soft, it doesn't really matter, honestly. You can put it to soft, because this is the feature that it's just built into the software. Will you use it? Probably no. GT cars, if you turn the wheel more than 540 degrees, you're most likely in a serious crash or spinning out. So there is really nothing much to do in this area. And now I would really like to focus on the driving and show you how the wheel actually feels over the curbs and what kind of feeling should you expect out of this wheelbase. So let's go. So yeah, now before I do my next hot lap, I just wanted to explain how these settings are actually going to feel on the track. So I can say that when you're going over the bumps, when you're stopping the car, for example, here, the car will feel like it's, well, you will have that kind of exaggerated feel of the curbs. This is something that I like, because then I always know that I'm on the curb and there can be potentially a bit less grip than usual. It depends on the circuit. This track really tells me how much track am I using. If I'm going over the curbs, I can then really feel that curb. It's like kicking in the wheel. So you can see, I will go a little bit faster now, just so you can see that the wheelbase is sometimes clipping. It's not clipping as much. That's why I reduced the gain in-game to 70%. But in some of the turns, for example, if I go over the curb, you will feel like the car, you can feel that the wheelbase was clipping a little bit. And even here, I think it's going to clip if you touch the curbs a little bit. So this gives me an indication that something extreme is happening on the track. So either it was I locked up the front tires, either it was that I turned in too much braking. That's situations where you don't release the brakes at the time. So it gives me an indication of, you know, something can be better and you should improve something. For example, when you're flying over these curbs, I know it can always be a little bit better, but in this case it was, I wanted to kind of highlight those exaggerated situations and those extreme situations. In normal driving, when you're going around the circuit, you won't have any clipping, or you will have very, very minimal clipping. You can readjust the gain in the game to about, I think about 65%, and you won't have any kind of clipping whatsoever, 60%. But I just wanted to kind of highlight all of those extreme situations and just wanted to help myself in that way. So I will go for, let's say, a quicker lap just to show you what exactly am I looking for. So braking point, as usual, let's use the curb. And I already know if I'm touching these curbs. So I can feel it in the wheel, and the car gives me that vibration when I'm going over the curbs as well. Here, a little bit of braking, but I will know again if I touch the curbs or not. A bit too much. I didn't really want to go that wide, but let's brake a little bit. First gear, and powering out of that corner. I know it can be a little bit faster. This is not going to be my best lap time, but I just wanted to show you in which scenarios does the wheel help me and in what way. Here, when I'm going wide, it just starts rumbling. Here, especially Acqua Minerale, like second gear on the way out. Curbs, again, it's giving me that feedback. Once again, curbs. We're talking a lot about curbs. In racing, they're really, really useful. Okay, I lost a bit of time there. But when we had that jump, I actually felt like it was a jump. The Wheelbase really gave me that information, and it's really useful to have something like this. Here, too much turning, but the Wheelbase is eventually going to tell me that, because it gives you that extreme situation, and of course I highlighted that extreme situation. There is a little bit of clipping, so I know already what to expect. And just to clarify, clipping is not good, but it kind of helps me personally, as I said, in these extreme situations. So I changed the settings so we can go to options, and you can see that I adjusted the actual gain in the game. Minimum 4 stay the same, dampening, and you don't really need that dampening. In ACC, dynamic dampening stayed at 100, road effects 0, and 400 Hz as the frequency. And of course, we tried to match up the steering lock from MOZA PitHouse in ACC. Linear, everything stays linear. Braking gamma didn't change that much, and 50 milliseconds is the debounce gear shift. If you're buying something like this, or if you're buying a wheelbase that has more than, let's say, 9 to about 12 Newton meters, I do have to suggest that you're not actually buying the torque. You're buying how quick is the response rate from the wheelbase itself, and how quickly it can get up to that peak Newton meters. Essentially, this wheelbase does not have an official record on how quick does it get to a specific Newton meter. I would say that it's among the fastest wheelbases that I've tried, that I've ever tried. And in the end, those 16 Newton meters, mostly you will not use all 16 Newton meters. You will most likely use just about 6, 7, maybe even 8. But in some areas where, for example, when you're going over the curbs and when something special happens, whenever you're losing the car, for example, you will have a little bit more information, and that information is going to come to you a little bit sooner than usual. And yes, I would also like to go into the technical aspects of this wheelbase. As you probably already noticed, R16 has 16 Newton meters of torque. On the back side, you can see that it has pedal port, emergency stop, USB. It has, of course, DC input, and we got the power button here. And on top of that, you got dash, shifter, and HP port. So I think this is quite easily reachable, and you don't have to think too much about when you're pressing this button. Sometimes it can take a little bit longer just to feel where the power button switch is, but in general it's quite nice. I would like to go to the back side of this product, and you can really see now it has 4 of these mounting holes, and I made a little scratches when I was mounting this, and the mounting process for the first hole wasn't exactly easy, so you have to like get it there into the millimeter, otherwise the screws just won't go in. And these screws that you're getting with MOZA are just not long enough, so they couldn't fit on my GT Omega Prime rig. I had to use my own screws, but in general, I don't think that's really that much of a big deal. I guess if you have a couple of screws just laying around the house and you already have some wheelbase mounted on your GT Omega or something that you're using, you know, you can just use that as well, or just jump to the hardware store and get them. Yes, it really stands out from most of MOZA wheelbases. If you're going from R3 all the way up to R12, and by the way, this is the R12, you can notice that the housing is pretty much the same. So the housing with all of the other MOZA wheelbases is more likely, it's going to be pretty standard. It's basically just a square box. But with these R16 and R21, you got this very nice finishing, and it's kind of glossy. So sometimes I had to clean it up. Yesterday when I was testing this, I felt at one point, I thought the base might have been overheating, but just when I touched it, it was cold as ice. I don't know how they made it like that. Maybe the housing, this is just an external housing, which is, you know, keeping all of the heat in and making the product really cold all the time. But yeah, I was using I think it was about 8 to 9 Newton meters of torque, and the housing was cold as ice. So in general, no problem with overheating, and this design, I guess, provides something like that. And it makes these products, R16 and the R21, exclusive and just a little bit better looking than all of the other products around. I mean, in general, with this design, you can clearly see that this is a huge difference. The MOZA quick release system, as usual, just makes the whole thing really easily attachable. So if you're getting a GS wheel like this one, it's easily attachable. If you have, for example, a KS wheel, once again, you got the MOZA quick release system, and the whole ecosystem really has this kind of unique flow, and the quick release system is always there, and it's quite useful and one of the best, as I said before, and it's really, really fast. So a couple of questions. I actually had a couple of questions about this one. And is this PlayStation, Xbox compatible? PlayStation, no, but Xbox, if you're using an Xbox compatible wheel, you can use it on Xbox. And about the PlayStation compatibility, is it PlayStation compatible? No. But I tried using something like this, and it kind of worked out. So the wheelbase was working on PlayStation, but although I cannot say that the force feedback was as clear as on PC. You can use this Brook Resolution 2. I'm just going to put it down in the description so you guys can have a look. This costs about 70 to 100 euros or US dollars. It really, once again, depends on where you live. But in general, if you want to have it to work on PlayStation, it will work with this adapter. Although, as I said, the force feedback is slightly delayed and is not as clear as scripts with, let's say, on the Assetto Corsa or any other sims that you would play on PC. Let's move on. Force feedback is good. Yeah, I would say that it's quite good. It's one of the best wheelbases that I tried. Just as I said before, if you're using an external adapter, it might not be exactly the best. So, do you need 16 Newton meters of torque? Will you ever use 16 Newton meters of torque? Probably no, but this is not exactly the point. Why are you buying this wheelbase? You're buying it because how quickly the wheel can get up to that specific torque. And in this case, that it's really getting up there, but I do not have an official record. Will you use 16 Newton meters? Probably no. You will use more likely about 6, 7, 8. It really depends on how would you like your wheelbase to be. I used it at about, well, it was about 45% of the whole output. In some rare occasions when I was going over the curbs, I really felt that I needed a little bit more, so you can enhance these areas. For example, when you're going over the curb, over the grass, you can really enhance that in MOZA PitHouse. So that's quite useful to do. And on top of that, I really wanted to touch the price, because this is an important segment when you're buying something like this. And it has a completely different value on specific markets. So in general, if you want to buy a MOZA R16, if you just want to make it, you want to make a purchase in the United States, you will pay $799 US. If you want to get this exact same product, you will pay just about 869 euros. That's quite a difference. So I just made a little comparison and I adjusted the currencies. So in the end, so yes, in Europe, you're paying around 950 US dollars for the same product, while in the US, it's costing just about 799. Let's round it up to 800. So you're paying 150 US dollars more in Europe than in the US. Of course, I excluded shipping costs and excluded all of the possible taxes out of this, but in general, you're actually paying a lot more for the same price in Europe than in the US, which, you know, I think it's a really good deal in the US if you're looking for something like this. So now I would also like to see how much are you paying for Newton meters. So in general, per 1 Newton meter, in EU, you're paying just about $60, but in US, you're just paying just under 50 US dollars. So that's quite a big difference, $10 per Newton meter more in European Union rather than US. So in general, you're paying just about $50 per Newton meter, which is, you know, I compare that with the other wheelbases around there. I compare that to the Fanatec DD, which has 12 Newton meters, and you're paying just about 59, 60 US dollars per same Newton meter. So this, value-wise, you're getting more value when you're buying something like this. Although you might not use all 16 Newton meters of torque, but you know, it's useful to have something that can produce a little bit more power. I guess more is better. And yes, if I want to make a conclusion about this wheelbase, I would definitely say that it's worth getting if you're in the market for a very high peak torque wheelbase. In general, I found that the information that was going from the wheelbase, it was really direct and clear, and there is, you know, it really surprised me in that area. So if you're on the market for something like this, and if you want to find more information, go check out the description. My website and my review is going to be down there. And on top of that, if you like the video, you can click the like button, or you might even want to subscribe to the channel. So guys, until the next time, enjoy and bye.